what are some of the basics of being not necessarily eligible for any particular grant, but grant ready in that this organization is ready to actually try to pursue a grant? What are some of those administrative requirements or needs that every organization needs to make sure that they have kind of under control?
Well, what I definitely tell my clients is you definitely want to make sure that you have at least one person. Every organization doesn't may not have that type of luxury to be able to
Mhm,
have a grants team. So, but you still need to have at least one or two people that are the point people. Okay.
mhm,
They need to be the people that everyone can come back to, that knows the organization, that knows where the documents are, that when they're signing up for various for SAM registration or whatever, because a lot of these different platforms now, let's just say if you're going on grants.gov and you're going after a federal grant, some of these organizations or departments have their own site. They use grants.gov for maybe just the initial paperwork, but then they have where different platforms that you have to actually submit your proposal, your grant proposal to.
mhm.
So, what I advise for people to do is to go back through all their paperwork, make sure that they have that one contact person that will be the point of contact for all of this information. So that way nothing gets lost. So, those emails, those updates, and things like that goes to that one person. That's one thing that I do suggest. Also, what I would say is if you're interested in, pursuing a grant, I also say, please go back and even look at the grants that you actually are interested in. Just do just a surface level search just to kind of maybe have an idea of some of the documentation that you would
Mhm.
even need. Maybe an updated budget. You may need an organization chart.
Mhm.
Various things that you may need, and then that way, you have an old, a old proposal that you may be able to use. And having that type of information and collecting a lot of that documentation, whether you do the grant in-house or if you decide to go with a firm, like ours or with another firm out here, that will save a lot of time on the
Mhm.
back end, probably save you a lot of, money down the road by just going and collecting a lot of your information and saying, hey, this is what we have. These are the things that we have done. Collect all your program materials, all your old, all your lists of partners, all your list of your networks, different people that you've partnered with all throughout the years. Make sure you have that. Making sure that you have your contact, your specific contact person that will be available. I would say that as well. Actually, if you've gone through and applied at some of these or in some of these platforms, go in it. Just go in there and try and see if your credentials still work. If
Mhm.
they don't work, now you know where you stand. Okay.
Mhm.
You know you have up to 30 days before you can actually apply for a particular grant, depending on if you saw that grant in adequate enough time. If you did not see it within an adequate enough time, then you'll know, well, hey, we may not be in a position to get this grant this time before you start putting money into a consultant or with your team. You may be in a position where you can prepare for that grant for the next rollout.
When you say that 30 days, is it 30 days to complete all of your, SAM grants.gov registration and then you're able to go and apply for the grant? Or do you say 30 days is just the amount of time it takes to figure out how to be ready to go after any particular grant?
Well, when I say 30 days, a lot of time I think about when you're updating material or
Mhm.
updating your contacts and things like that. Or if you've never applied for a federal grant at all, now
Mhm.
you're having to get those credentials. We all know the government can be slow. I
Mhm.
mean, and to get those things set up in the system properly, to make sure that, everything is working properly, you definitely want to make sure that you give yourself at least 30 days for you to get your credentials and everything working. Doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean it's going to take 30 days. It could be 2 weeks. you know, it could be a week. But if, yeah, a lot of platforms and a lot of the departments will say at least 30 days minimum.
Mm, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had a couple folks, especially like as like the Cops and Stop grant are the big ones for school districts in this summer. And you have a lot of folks who maybe haven't gone after grants in a while, or let's say the district has never used any type of federal grants, or they use only foundation and, certain types of other grant programs, and like their registrations are all messed up. Um, then you're trying to see, well, is 3 weeks enough time? Is 2 weeks enough time? And you kind of end up feeling like you're kind of pushing it a bit. So,
Yeah, and they're not alone. A lot of organizations find themselves in that situation. And for me, it's just always better when people always keep their paperwork and documentation kind of together,
mhm,
always, and just kind of build up on it, and just always go in and check it out. Go and log in once a month, once a month, once every, every quarter or something like that, just to make sure that your credentials are okay, whether you're going to apply for a grant or not.
mhm,
Go ahead and make sure that you have the credentials. Um, most of some of my clients also, whether even if they're not going or even if they're not ready or in a
mhm,
position to apply for a federal grant, I always tell them, let's go ahead and get you, into the system. It's free.
mhm,
You're not paying for anything. So it's free for you to have, be on SAMS.gov or even grants.gov for that
mhm.
matter, and go ahead and have those credentials, whether you're applying for that grant now or not. So that way, when you're ready and when you're actually ready to pursue it, all your documentation will be fine.
With some of the documentation that's needed, I know for us, obviously it's a little different, but when we pursue, say, E-rate opportunities as a service provider, we have to have quite a bit of documentation around, bank account informations to receive payment, company tax ID information, legal address, proof that you're registered and, permitted to either work in certain spaces, or that this is a valid address, all that stuff. Is it the same for, say, the average nonprofit or public entity? Do they have to have a tax ID? Do they have to have like proof that, we are in fact a legitimate nonprofit or legitimate school? This is documentation from the state or from the federal government saying, yes, we are. What type of stuff would they need?
Yeah, you would definitely need that. You're
Hmm.
definitely needing your 501c3 determination letters.
Hmm.
If you've been in operation for a while, your 990s, those are things you're going to have
Okay.
anyways. Also, if you are in SAMS or because years ago you didn't have to have a UEI number, but now you have to have a UEI number. I think they changed that probably a year or two ago,
Yeah.
now, where you have to have a UEI number. And some people were grandfathered in, because they already had a SAMS, and some people weren't. So, I would tell anybody, go back, check on your SAMS, and make sure that you have that, that's up to date. Um, Also, you want to have pretty much all your documentation in a row as far as, your financials. Another thing that I would say as well, make sure that all your addresses are the same. Okay. Make sure that your name, on all your legal documentation is the same. Well, I think
Yeah.
we ran into that one time with a client where their legal name and their DBA were not the same.
Hmm.
And I'm not even sure if they were officially registered as a DBA. So you have to,
Oh,
they will
okay.
kick it back. They would
Yeah.
kick it back. So now you having different addresses and you're trying to go in there. If your address changed, go back and make sure everything is exactly the same. Your bank account information, your SAMS, your grants.gov is the same, that everything is the same.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you definitely want to make sure that that stays the same. And when someone leaves, because I mean, it's inevitable for a lot of organizations, for, there may be some change in leadership or whatever. Let's hope that, I suggest for my clients that they have some sort of um, outgoing some type of procedures where
Mhm.
people hand over the keys and that they know, what the passwords are for a lot of
Mhm.
these platforms. Like you'd be surprised. Some people don't know the passwords. They don't know how to get in various systems. They don't have past, grant proposals. They have no information. So now you're starting all the way over from, start from first base. And
Yeah.
you don't want to be in that predicament. And it's really unfortunate when you're dealing with some larger organizations, right? And
Yeah.
so now they have years worth of, data. They have years worth of information, and the last thing you would want is to have to bring in a consultant or someone now billing you for those hours that you have to go back and try to, create
Yeah.
something different, you know. So boilerplate things, we love those. I know we love them in Grant World. And I'm pretty sure that you guys probably love them as well. So yeah, make sure all your addresses, everything exactly the same.